A Chinese reconnaissance satellite detects the USS Gerald R. Ford carrier strike group in the Philippine Sea. Coordinates transmitted to the mainland in seconds. Minutes later, a DF-26B ballistic missile leaves the rail from deep inside China. It does not skim the ocean like a cruise missile. It rockets into the exosphere, the edge of space. Then the warhead separates and plunges back at Mach 18, over 13,000 miles per hour. The air compresses so violently in front of the nose it turns to plasma, absorbing radar signals, turning the warhead into an electromagnetic ghost on Aegis scopes. Reaction time for defensive systems: seconds. America's best carrier-based fighter, the F-35C, has a combat radius of 600 nautical miles. To get within strike range, the carrier has to sail directly into that kill zone. 5,000 sailors, $13 billion of steel, right where China's missiles are pointing. America knows this problem. America has a solution. It is called the FAXX, and Washington just slashed its funding by 84%. This is Dogfight Docs. Let's get into it. Part 1. How America's carriers became sitting ducks. For 60 years, the US Navy operated with one foundational assumption: the ocean belongs to us. Carriers go where they need to go. Nothing stops them. China spent 3 decades systematically dismantling that assumption. The DF-21, D, and DF-26B are anti-ship ballistic missiles, not aircraft. Ballistic weapons launched from deep inside Chinese territory, guided by satellite and over-the-horizon radar, capable of maneuvering during terminal descent to hit a moving carrier. Ranges of 900 and 2,500 miles, respectively. They turned the Western Pacific from an American lake into a contested kill zone. In 2024, classified Pentagon war games simulating conflict over Taiwan produced the same result hundreds of times. US carrier strike groups were pushed back. Aircraft could not reach targets because getting close enough to launch put the entire strike group inside the DF-26's engagement envelope. The arithmetic is brutal. The FA-18 Super Hornet has a combat radius of around 400 nautical miles. The F-35C extends that to roughly 600. China's missile umbrella starts at 2,500. American carriers are being priced out of their own operating areas by weapons they cannot engage from safe distance. Rear Admiral Michael Donnelly, the Navy's Director of Air Warfare, said it plainly in April 2025. In the Pacific, the Navy does not have overmatch against China. Not dominance. Parity. Those words from the man running naval aviation landed like a thunderclap across the Pentagon and Capitol Hill. America's most powerful warships are becoming sitting ducks, and the aircraft on their decks cannot fix that alone. If you find this video valuable, please hit the subscribe button. It takes just 2 seconds, and it genuinely helps this channel keep making content like this. Thank you. Now, let's get back into it. Part 2. What the FAXX is and what it can do. The FAXX is the Navy's 6th-generation carrier-based fighter, designed to replace the FA-18 Super Hornet fleet as it reaches end-of-service life in the early 2030s. 2 companies are competing: Boeing and Northrop Grumman. Lockheed Martin submitted a proposal, but was eliminated in March 2025 after their design failed to meet Navy requirements. Both remaining concepts reflect the Pacific threat environment directly in their confirmed design priorities. Combat radius confirmed by Navy officials at over 750 nautical miles, a 25% improvement over the F-35C, nearly double the Super Hornet. That extra range keeps the carrier further from Chinese missile batteries, while still being able to reach meaningful targets. It does not solve the range problem completely. It changes the geometry enough to matter. Tailless stealth design. Both Boeing and Northrop concepts eliminate vertical tail surfaces entirely. This is a deliberate response to a specific technical vulnerability. Current stealth aircraft, including the F-22 and F-35, are optimized primarily against X-band fire control radar. China and Russia are developing VHF and UHF early warning systems with long wavelengths that cause electromagnetic resonance when they match the physical dimensions of aircraft components, particularly vertical tail fins. A tailless design addresses that vulnerability at its root. Manned, unmanned teaming architecture confirmed. The FAXX pilot commanding collaborative combat aircraft drones that push into the highest threat areas while the crewed aircraft maintains standoff. One pilot effectively commanding a small formation. Multiplying combat power without multiplying the number of human lives at risk. Full carrier suitability requirements. Reinforced landing gear, folding wings, corrosion-resistant materials, and structural toughness to survive repeated catapult launches and arrested landings at sea. Stresses that land-based aircraft are never designed for, and that cannot simply be bolted onto an existing airframe. Northrop Grumman released a concept video in early 2026 showing a sleek tailless blended body design with top-mounted engine inlets and folding wings. Boeing has its own competing concept. The Navy announced a contract award decision between the two companies by August of 2026. Part 3. The funding cut that shocked the Navy. Here is where the story turns genuinely alarming. The Pentagon's fiscal year 2026 budget cut FAXX funding from $454 million to $74 million, 84% in a single budget cycle. Defense Secretary Hegseth's justification: the industrial base cannot support two sixth-generation fighter programs simultaneously. Building the F-47 for the Air Force and the FAXX for the Navy at the same time would create delays and risk both programs failing. Solution: prioritize the F-47. Deal with the Navy later. Boeing's own CEO publicly contradicted this. Steve Parker stated clearly that Boeing could handle both programs without issue. Defense experts pointed out that America has managed multiple advanced fighter programs simultaneously before: the F-15 and F-16 in the 1970s, the F-22 and F-35 more recently. The industrial base argument did not survive scrutiny intact. Congress pushed back hard. The House Armed Services Committee advanced additional FAXX funding. The Senate Appropriations Committee proposed $1.4 billion. Senator Mitch McConnell wrote in the Wall Street Journal that Pentagon dithering had already cost hundreds of millions in unnecessary contract extensions while delaying the capability America needs. Admiral Daryl Cottle, Chief of Naval Operations, told Congress directly, "Our ability to fly with impunity with our existing airframes is fleeting. If I don't start building this immediately, you are not going to get it for some time." The final 2026 NDAA provided some funding through what sources describe as a classified program line, considerably less than needed to maintain the original timeline. The Super Hornets will need expensive life extensions that were never planned. The gap between what carriers carry and what they need to carry will grow. Part 4. Why this has happened before, and why that matters. This is the historical context that transforms this from a budget story into a warning. In the 1960s, Defense Secretary Robert McNamara forced the Navy to adopt a modified version of the Air Force's F-111 fighter bomber for carrier operations. Same logic as today. Why develop two aircraft when one platform can serve both services? The result was the F-111B. Too heavy, too complex, completely unsuited for carrier aviation. The Navy canceled it after years of wasted effort and billions of wasted dollars, then built the F-14 Tomcat independently, producing one of the greatest carrier fighters in history. The F-35 program repeated a version of the same lesson. The original plan called for 80% parts commonality between Air Force, Navy, and Marine variants. Delivered commonality, closer to 20%. The carrier version required so many structural modifications, it became essentially a different aircraft. Heavier, more expensive, significantly delayed. Now, a navalized F-47 is being floated as the eventual solution to the Navy's sixth-generation requirement. Boeing's own engineers have been direct about the challenge. The F-47 is optimized for land-based Air Force missions. Converting it for carrier operations would require exactly the kind of extensive modification that turned the F-111 into a cautionary tale and drove F-35C costs well beyond original projections. Admiral Kilby said it plainly. The sixth-generation fighter is the keystone of our air wing of the future. Without it, the carrier loses its primary offensive capability. The most powerful ships ever built become floating targets instead of instruments of American power. History is trying to tell Washington something. The only question is whether Washington is listening. Conclusion: America's aircraft carriers are the most consequential conventional military instruments ever built. Nothing else in the American arsenal projects power across the Pacific with the same flexibility, the same reach, or the same deterrent credibility to allies who need to know America can show up when it matters. But a carrier without a capable fighter is an expensive target. The Super Hornets are aging toward a retirement that will arrive on schedule, whether or not the F/A-XX is ready to replace them. The DF-26 is not waiting. China's J-35 is already on carrier decks. The J-36 6th-generation prototype is in flight testing. The F/A-XX is not canceled. It is on life support, kept breathing by congressional supporters fighting a Pentagon that has decided the Air Force's needs come first. The August 2026 contract decision between Boeing and Northrop will tell us whether the urgency was understood in time. America's most powerful warships are becoming sitting ducks. The F/A-XX is the fix. Whether Washington builds it fast enough is the question that keeps Navy admirals awake at night. Subscribe to Dogfight Docs for coverage that tracks this program as it develops. Drop a comment below on whether you think the F/A-XX gets the funding it needs before the Super Hornets run out of flight hours. I will see you in the next one.